This is America's Mayor Live. Number what, Ted?
672.
672. Man, I love that. 672. So I finished up on the Rudy Giuliani show talking about how we've got to change the dynamics with Putin. And how can you possibly object to J.D. Vance asking the Pope to get involved? I think if we had squared things up a little more evenly, it would be good for the Pope to get involved. But we haven't. We've left Russia in an extraordinarily commanding position, and there isn't much a Pope can get that will. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Would the Pope tell them to give some of that land back? If he would, wow. I mean, why don't you and I step back, Ted, for a moment, and say what would a fair resolution of this be? And let's assume, even though it isn't true, for a moment, that they're equally guilty or not guilty. Okay, here, that's where they aren't. I mean, the reality is Russia should be pushed the hell out for what they did, right. and Putin should probably be executed for violating international law. Right. That would be a fair conclusion. There is nothing that Ukraine did to justify that attack. The idea that Ukraine wanted to join NATO is not a reason to attack them. Of course they wanted to join NATO. They wanted to join NATO so Russia wouldn't attack them, right? I cannot believe the people in my party that buy that shit. I really can't. Look, I more than they do understand what a crook Zelensky is and how he's double-crossed his own people and how that guy could have saved us, Joe Biden, if he had told the truth and not covered up for all oligarchs who make him rich, for his former president who took massive bribes and sold out his people. And I really wonder how much Zelensky even loves his own people, but that's a different story. I also am able and capable of seeing the difference between Zelensky and Putin. Zelensky is a typical, not even the worst level Ukrainian oligarch. Zelensky is Putin is a murderer by definition. He began his life as a murderer. He continues to be a murderer. And even the lives of his own people don't matter. He's lost 1 million in this stupid thing that he's done. And I don't know what he's really gotten out of it. Has Russia gotten any richer for owning Ukraine? They lost possibly 1 million people. If anything, they've lost to Europe. And they had a very, very cozy relationship with Germany for oil. They have no relationship with Germany for oil anymore. And to frighten Germany off or push them off based on morals is really tough, since they suck all around Red China. Rest of Europe has turned against Putin. I mean, the only one who seems to talk to him is, the communist, like maybe Spain, a couple of the real red countries, right? And our president. Everybody else despises him. So I don't know what he's accomplished. His dream is to put together the Russian empire. I believe. There are those who believe he wants to put the Soviet Union back together again. I don't think so. I've never seen anything. I don't believe his writings. I look at his actions and his practicality, and I don't see him trying to take Poland and the various countries that make up the old Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia and Hungary. I do see him wanting to put together the old Russian Empire, which would be the Tsar's properties. And that's where Ukraine comes in, because that's a quintessential part of what Russia believed was theirs. Stretch it a little more, and it takes you into Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, maybe Finland, which is why Finland joined NATO. And why Ukraine wants to. Gee, Vladimir, you got to understand why they want to join NATO. They don't want to be taken by you. And you did. You took advantage of two traitorous American presidents, Obama and Biden, who wouldn't fight for anybody, and certainly not against the possibilities of communism. And you took what you wanted. And Biden gave Ukraine enough to keep it to 20%, but certainly never gave them enough to win. It just watched them die. Now Trump wants peace. And Russia doesn't want to give anything back. In fact, Russia wants more. Russia wants even what it didn't take in those territories where they haven't taken everything. And Russia wants Ukraine out of NATO forever. And it doesn't want not only American troops, but European troops there. So really what it wants is a country open for rape, like they did in the 19% they've taken. It might take a while. Different president, one of these jackass Democrats again. He'll come in, they'll say a lot of words, and then he'll have all of Ukraine like he wants it. And then we'll have to start worrying about NATO, particularly if China were to surpass us. So here's my answer. I gave it a while back, and I'm going to add something to it that was put in by my friend Lindsey Graham. Lindsey has the votes, he believes, to pass a bill that would put, I think it's a 400 or 500% secondary tariff on Russia. Secondary tariffs are deadly. It's exactly what we should do to Iran. They penalize countries who do business with Russia. So basically, we would take their already suffering oil business, and we would kill it. It's done a pretty good job killing it itself, because Europe will do no business with them. China is tired of sponsoring them. They're not getting any more money from Xi Jinping. He's worried about his own situation, which we'll explain later. They are in terrible financial trouble and are letting up on them right now. I don't understand. But I work for Ronald Reagan, and I am, I guess, a hardliner against communists. I don't see it any other way. I think the history of the 20th century teaches you that if you give an inch, they take your country. And so we should set down our demands, or we're going to impose a 500% secondary tariff on them. And we're going to do everything we can to stuff their oil business. It'd be great for us. We'll make a fortune. America will. And all the other, Saudi Arabia will love us for this. We should say, here's the deal, Putin. You're not going to get the territory that you didn't capture in Ukraine. Cut it out. Who do you think you're talking to? Biden? You're going to give back half of what you took. So you're going to have, in fact, we'll give you a little extra. You took 19%, you can keep 10. We're going to take 9% back. And we're going to take a good look at the 9%, because we want to make sure that we share those minerals with you. Now, you just grabbed a third of them. We're going to take half of that third back. So you'll have some minerals. You'll have a lot more minerals than you had before. But we're going to have more minerals than you have, because we're a much more powerful country than you are. and we're tired. When you're tired of, Trump, am tired of you pushing me around. You tell me you're going to show up, you don't show up. You have me on the phone for an hour and a half. You bullshit me. Yeah, try that on Biden's not around now. So give us half of each one of those territories back. That'll give you a nice 10% and your road to Crimea. I'm going to convince Zelensky to give up Crimea because he's going to get thrown out of office the minute he does it, because the Ukrainians don't want to give up their precious territory any more than you would want to give up yours. You know, you think they're Russian. Sorry, they don't. The last time they voted on this, it was like 90%. And after what you've done to them, I don't know why the hell they would want you. I mean, how many of the kids did you kill? How many Russian children, how many Ukrainian children did you kill, Vladimir? You think they love you? So you get half. That's nice. You got a nice little half you didn't have before. You get Crimea that you're in love with. You can keep it. You don't get any more. And just because you tend to have this thing where every 5 years you invade them, they're going to have troops there from European countries, and American troops will only be there if you start up again. We're not going to put them there permanently, but we're going to be involved in the effort. And if you start in shooting again, then we'll put American troops there. So there's the deal. And if you don't like it, find something else to do than sell oil, because we're going to stop you from selling oil all over the world. It seems only fair after all the people you killed. And go explain to your people exactly why you got 1 million people killed to get 10% of Ukraine. That's how you deal with a dictator. Sorry. I wish I could just say the president's absolutely right and the people around him are absolutely right. And unless that's where they're going and they didn't tell me, I tell it like it is. And this is something that I've studied, watched, was in the Reagan administration, lived through, and I do believe I understand it better than them. That's how you deal with a bully. Now we turn our attention to the other one. Let's take Iran next. This is the 11th round of a 12-round heavyweight championship fight, and you just pounded your opponent forever, and his knees are wobbly, and he's ready to get knocked out. And what do? You knock him out, right? Well, that's what we should do to Iran. Why we have assisted, I mean by us, I mean America, in keeping these two Ayatollahs around for 45 years, I don't know. This is even more personal because they've killed a lot of Americans. Why it's okay to kill Soleimani but not kill the Ayatollah, I don't understand. Soleimani didn't do anything on his own. He did it all for the Ayatollah. Why are we going to sign another piece of paper with them? Wasn't that the worst deal America ever made? Do we think that anything they agreed to on that piece of paper, like Putin, for example, when he signs his piece of paper, do we really think they're going to abide by any of that? Suppose they say we're not going to enrich nuclear power. We're going to have to occupy the country to make sure they don't. We don't want to occupy the country, do we? No. What do they have to do for us to use the military we spend so much money on to protect us and to protect the world from this maniacal killer who has killed almost as many people as Xi Jinping, who wants to destroy our greatest ally, Israel, and then is very, very quick to say after that he wants to destroy us. And don't we have him right now in a perfect position to destroy him? Israel knows where every single one of the nuclear facilities are. We've got the bunker buster bombs there and have had plenty of time to train them on how to use them. I don't know that we'd have to use American troops. If we did, I certainly would have no objection to it and taking out the Ayatollah. After all, our brothers and sisters that he's killed. And what are we taking this for anymore? It is not better, actually, to make peace with the Ayatollah than it is to take him out. It is not better for the world, for our children, for the future. It is better to take him out. It would be like saying what Chamberlain said, it's better to make peace with Hitler than to go to war. Was that better? I know war is terrible and I know war is awful, but going to peace can sometimes be worse. But hasn't that been the history of the last 150 years? When you don't take these animals out quickly, more people die. Iran is on the verge of changing. That doesn't mean it will. We're not guaranteed that. But we're guaranteed that more than we are a lot of the other animals that we took out. And this one's worse. I mean, we took out Gaddafi and we took out Saddam, and I don't know how many others we've taken out. None of them compare to the Ayatollah. None of them kill as many Americans as the Ayatollah. What are we waiting for? Who is it that's giving this advice? Now, Russia, he's basically pushed the president up against a wall. The government of Iran has said they will not give up nuclear materials. They will promise that they won't use it for military purposes. They may even reduce it to a small amount, but they will not give it up. Well, exactly why won't they give it up? Are we stupid? Because they don't have enough oil? This is not a country without more energy than just about any other country in the world except Saudi Arabia and us. They don't need nuclear energy for peaceful uses. And maybe that's something they have to forego because they have a maniac of a leader who Ronald Reagan always said the worst thing would be to have nuclear weapons or nuclear material in the hands of an insane man. Maybe they're not trustworthy enough to have nuclear material. By the way, no, they are not trustworthy enough to have nuclear material. Sorry, you can't have it. You're not going to have it. And we don't have this big giant military that we spent all this time developing so that we don't get to make some choices like this to keep the world safe. And one of them is you give us a plan by the weekend as to where all those facilities are, get the people out of there, and we're going to go take them out. And if we don't get the plan, we're going to go take them out. And cheap boy, Mr. Ayatollah, I'd really go deep in the ground, pal. Really, really deep. Because we think these bunker busting bombs, we actually were told they go all the way through to China. Now, we're going to try not to hit China because we don't want a war with them. But you better go really down, like, really, really down, and put a big thing on your head. Not one of those stupid things you wear, but like a big thing. Or maybe do what you always say, die a jihadist. And just see how many virgins you get. And see if Muhammad's for real. Yeah. Did Gabriel actually take him to meet all the prophets and tell him he could kill Jews and Christians? And you really believe all that stuff? Well, you're going to find out. Finally, China. China is in a tailspin. It's in an economic tailspin. It is, its economy is falling apart in every direction. Even the reduced tariffs, which are 10%, are killing them. They're killing them because they are, unlike us, they're not a diversified economy. Our economy is not based on just one thing. Our economy is it's not based on exports. It's not based on imports. It's not based on just what we do domestically. It isn't based on energy only. It isn't based on agriculture only. It isn't based on transportation only. It isn't based on services only, although those are a big part of our economy. We have about as diversified an economy. I don't know who's more diversified. There's no bigger economy. But it's not as if we're a big economy and we have two industries and you take out those two industries and we're finished. They're a one-trick pony. They're an export economy that steals. If we can cut off the stealing, they're not going to create anything from now until the moon shines green. And if we cut off the exports, they're all going to starve to death and they're going to finally kill Xi Jinping, which is what happens in a communist country. And that's how Russia ended, isn't it? It isn't that what we want to do to a country that wants to destroy us before they do destroy us. Look what they've done to us. They've destroyed us internally pretty bad. They've taken God away from us. They've taken our children away from us. They've created unbelievable hatred of our police, unbelievable hatred of our country. They've tried to take away our culture and our civilization like they did in China with the Cultural Revolution. They killed us with COVID, and they killed us with fentanyl. And we just sit here and smile? Huh? So I love the approach, and I commend to the president the article from Daniel McCarthy today. I think it's today's Post or yesterday's, in which he says that in the deal with China, we should make them pay for COVID. They make them pay for the damages we sustained because they deliberately sent people with COVID to the United States. COVID did not come from the United States. It came from China, and they sent it here. I think in addition to that, we should send them the traitors from the United States that assisted them. Or maybe we should execute them for being traitors, or send them to China. I mean, Fauci would love living in China. He probably, I do hope Fauci likes Chinese food better than Italian. I'd be very embarrassed if that little rat weasel liked Italian food. Now, I'm going to tell you when I knew he was a Chinese communist. I knew he was a Chinese communist, about 3 months into it, when somebody said, the Chinese would never expose their own people to this. The Chinese don't want their own people to die. Xi Jinping doesn't want his own people to die, said Red Fauci. Now, that is probably, if Fauci were an ignorant man, that would be ignorant. There's no government on earth. There probably is no government in the history of the world or ideology that has killed more of its own people than the Chinese. Hitler killed mostly other people. He killed Germans, but his focus were the Orthodox, the Jews, the countries he conquered. This guy likes to kill Chinese people. How about 100 million? And our traders in the United States had him come to San Francisco and get a hero's welcome by the poor Chinese people whose relatives have been destroyed by him or his predecessors, and cheer for him. We got them in a very, very, it's like Iran. We have got them in a great position. We've never had them in this position before. It is not time to make deals with them. It's time to do everything we can to extinguish them as a world power. We can't extinguish them the way we can extinguish the Ayatollah. We can't take out Xi Jinping, but we can take out the Ayatollah. We can create pressures there that the people of China will move toward taking them out. And that's what we should be doing. They're not a trading partner, not a country that wants to watch you get destroyed and take over for you. They are not trading partners. They are enemies of the United States of America. They treat us like the enemy. We treat them like they're trading partners because we are either brainwashed, traitors ourselves, or jackasses. So, Mr. McCarthy, 100% right. Let them pay for, figure out how much they owe us for COVID and put it in the negotiations. We'd like it, by the way, we'd like it the way Obama gave it to the Ayatollah in cash. This is the time to pounce on China and destroy them, not to treat them like they are equals. They are not equals. They are animals, not the Chinese people. Please, never think I'm talking about the wonderful Chinese people. It's people with a great culture, a great civilization. It's a people that's been victimized in the most horrendous of ways. We, in fact, in many cases, unlike Russia and Germany, which inflicted a great deal of their torture on the rest of the world, the Chinese people have probably reserved most of their torture for their own people, including the ethnic minorities that they have attempted to extinguish. Oh, not to mention the Muslims and the Christians that they extinguish on a regular basis. Their dominance of the Catholic Church, which, by the way, dear Pope, get them the hell out of picking bishops, huh? The early popes all ended their papacy not in a comfortable bed, but by virtue of the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire wanted to extinguish them. Well, China wants to extinguish you. And the idea that you're trying to keep the Catholics safe there, I don't know. Is that the history of our religion? Compromising the most important parts of it so we'll be safe? Or is the history of our religion courage? So these are all building up all at once. And I'm hoping that it's a strategy. But I'm telling you what I think has to happen to come out of this strategy. Otherwise, well, I don't even want to think about otherwise. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Welcome back to America's Mayor live from Palm Beach. Well, I think we've covered pretty thoroughly where we stand on the three big military issues that face us, which is Russia, China, and Iran. And it's time to get tough. No more excuses. No more wasted time. That's it. Now let's go to the things that are working out better, like all this stuff with the aliens. We're down to nobody coming in, and although we're having a lot of ridiculous courtroom decisions by a justice system that is more screwed up than I think we even realized. I think we all thought that after Biden went, that whole lawfare thing was going to go away and all the courts were going to turn out to be fair and honest and not be affected by politics. And what turned out is they've left an awful lot of bums on the bench, haven't they? They really have. I mean, these aren't judges. These are political hacks that were put there as political hacks. And the woke agenda and the Washington the Washington imprimatur is so important it even affects some of our Supreme Court justices. Some of them are such a disappointment. But in any event, the Supreme Court has allowed us, oh, thank you, to return thousands and thousands of Venezuelans who had temporary deportation programs to actually send them back. They reversed the Ninth Circuit, which I don't know, has this Ninth Circuit ever not been reversed? Even the liberal courts reversed the Ninth Circuit. We'll have to figure out who's on the Ninth Circuit so we make sure they never get on the Supreme Court. So I don't know how, they don't list how many thousands, but these people were here in a temporary protected status, which was supposed to be over a year ago, but Trump never did that. Well, Noam immediately ended it. And their protections expired completely on April 7. They were held here by the courts, and they're all being sent back. These are people that originally Maduro said he wasn't going to take. And then Grinnell went down there, and Maduro gratuitously gave him a couple hostages and said, I'll take them. I wonder what happened. That's what we got to do to Russia, China, and Iran. Now, here's a guy. Why don't you tell me how this guy gets away with this? This guy's name is Jackson Hinkle. He's 25. He spreads anti-American propaganda all over. He's an anti-American. He's an American citizen, and he's an anti-American influencer. You get this? And he's on X. Now, he's been thrown off YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch. And you know I favor free speech. Elon, throw him off. God almighty. He's publicly stated that he's been vetted by Russian and Chinese intelligence and maintains close ties with both governments. I mean, what does he have to do?
Yeah.
His public statements and affiliations warrant further scrutiny to assess the extent of his alignment with foreign interests. No, they don't. He just told you. And he also recently now has ended up on the Pakistani side of the Pakistan-Indian dispute. And he's been spreading all kinds of lies, apparently, about India, that they participated in all kinds of atrocities that didn't take place.
Doesn't that mean he's with Russia?
Yeah.
Pakistan?
In February, Hinkle attended the funeral of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. And he gave interviews to Hezbollah-owned Al-Manar TV. And I ran Channel 3. I'm sure that's a real free speech network. He also participated in a Houthi conference in Tanzania. And he gave a speech condemning U.S. strikes on Yemen.
Okay, this is...
How about we take his account and we go like, maybe we could find him and try him for treason?
I was going to say.
What about that? Why don't we go look for him and see if we can find him and try him for treason? Do we hang him anymore? Like poor Nathan Hale got hung.
He's based in the U.S.
You know, I can show you where he got hung.
Really?
I know Prince Andrew is very, very controversial, but Prince Andrew came to tell me I was going to be knighted.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have a weird sense of humor, right? So afterwards, when he wanted to go I eventually said yes after I realized it would be an honorary knighthood. I wouldn't give him my citizenship.
Right.
And I said, I'll take, he wanted to go on a tour. As we went by, I said, you see this plaza here? This is where you killed Nathan. This is where you killed Nathan Hale. But it didn't work out well for you, right?
Where did they...
right near City Hall.
He was hung?
Nathan Hale was hung for being in a... You know Nathan Hale. I only have one life to give for my country.
Oh, the soldier.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
He was actually hung. He was actually hung a little further north, and they had a ceremony for him there.
He spied. He went behind the lines.
It wasn't as powerful. By the time you hung one of my guys, Nathan Hale, right here. But it didn't work out well for you, right?
Yeah.
And during Fleet Week once, the British Navy came. You know, came to every year we have a Fleet Week, and a Navy from one of our allied countries comes and joins us.
Mm-hmm.
And when the British Navy showed up, I always had a big ceremony for the Norwegian Navy and for the French Navy and the British Navy. And I said, well, this is the first time they've been back here since we kicked them out in the War of 1812.
1812. Good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I'm still not over the Revolutionary War yet.
Well, New York.
I'm over the Civil War, but I'm not over the Revolutionary War yet.
Yeah. Well, New York. Not to go down a different path here, but New York. It was an interesting.
Oh yeah,
New York, right? It was named.
Yeah,
after,
I mean, you know,
they probably British had a presence there. Probably.
So now I want to spend time on the completely insane, but it justifies when I tell you that there is something, and I'm going to work on this, and it's going to require psychological work. It's going to require theological work. It's going to require moral work. It's going to require historical work. How many of you agree with me And I know, I would never have said this 20 years ago, ever, ever, ever. 20 years ago, when I came out of being U.S. attorney, I was big, strong Republican. I love Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was my hero, but I would have said there's no monopoly on virtue or vice in either political party. I used to say that in my speeches. I couldn't see much of a distinction between Republicans and Democrats when I prosecuted them. A lot of Republicans are honest, a lot of Democrats are honest, and about an equal number of Democrats and Republicans were dishonest. It is not so today. It's not even close. It's not that all Republicans are honest. They're not. And a lot of them tend to be dishonest in the dishonest Democratic states where they take the crumbs that are offered to them by the miserable Democrats. But there's a massive difference in the soul of both political parties. The Republican Party has a soul. That's why it disagrees with each other sometimes. The Democratic Party hasn't had a soul in a long time. There's something truly wrong with it. I'd probably go too far if I said evil, satanic, but something really wrong with it. I want you to now, if this representative LaMonica MacIver were just one individual case, like the guy who went to jail that got elected to Congress in New York for lying. Santos, yeah. Who we turned on because he had turned on Trump, remember?
That's the first time I ever heard of him.
Yeah. We wanted to get rid of him before we knew he was a crook because he was against Trump. But
He tried to kiss up to the...
yeah, but then he kissed up to Trump. And now he tries to pretend to be MAGA.
Well, those are the only people willing to give him a second chance. Democrat Party.
Yeah, well, nobody. He's a Republican. Nobody give him a second chance. But what about this LaMonica MacIver? Now, I have never heard of LaMonica MacIver. She is a member of Congress, a new one from New Jersey, and she was beating up on federal agents, which she thinks she can do. And the new U.S. attorney is not a pushover. Well, you know who the new U.S. attorney is. Alina Habba. Nor do I think she was looking for this case. Because I think they brought the case against the mayor to quiet him down. Now they're going to drop the case against the mayor because the mayor has promised he's not going to do it again, and they're going to take a tour together, whatever. But this one, do we have tape of this?
We do.
I mean, this woman's like, I don't know. You decide. I'm not going to say anything because I'll say something bad.
He's in the red. Punches the guy.
She's throwing punches. Look at her. Throwing a fat belly around. And that's a federal agent she's pushing. Black, by the way. You don't get to push around a federal agent. And she's throwing a fist around. That's a federal detention facility she's out in front of creating. Look, geez, my God. It is a federal crime to hit a federal agent. And she's hitting, and she's consistently, look at that guy. You see what she's doing?
That's right.
He hasn't touched her.
That's right, Mayor.
Look, he's going, stop. Now, is she going to get away with it because she's a damn politician? She going to get away with beating up on those two federal agents? One of whom at least is black, so let's get the racial thing out of it. I think the other guy, I guess, looks white. The other guy, she actually did more damage to the black guy than that. I think she punched that white guy, but she's like pushing on the black guy. She must be about 400 pounds or something. She got to outweigh him.
That's right. So federal authorities have charged Democrat Congresswoman LaMonica McIver with 2 counts of assault after this confrontation with officers outside an immigration detention center. Alina Habba, the interim U.S. attorney for the state of New Jersey and a former attorney to President Trump, initially announced the charges late Monday. She said her office would drop a trespassing charge against the mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, who is also a Democrat.
Trespassing, I can see that can be confusing, right? You're a public official, you're a mayor, you think you have a right maybe to be there, not be there. I get it, and we don't want to bring close cases. If this were just like a verbal dispute, and maybe she touched him a little, I would say don't bring the case. But that's an out and out sustained assault on 2 men just doing their job. They are entitled to be protected against that so-called member of Congress attacking them. She easily, I don't know if she outweighs him, but she maybe. I mean, that is not exactly a little woman hitting him. And there was both pushing and throwing of punches. And the law has to be strict as hell in protecting our federal agents, or who the hell is going to do the job? So, McIver, will you please go back to wherever the hell you came from, which probably wasn't, you sure as hell weren't brought up very well. I'll tell you that. And when you hear her defend herself, she convicts herself. Do we have many of her defending herself? Well, I have to tell you that the Justice Department has found a way around some of the sanctuary cities. So the sanctuary cities, say they're not going to cooperate with civil immigration. So what the DOJ has now done is to add to the affidavit that they pose a risk of public safety and made them criminal affidavits, which most of the sanctuary city laws do not protect against, nor could they without it being a crime. So we'll have to see how that works out. I don't know where they've done this. I see this as I don't know if this is a theory or they've actually attempted it. But it is a very, very smart thing to do to get beyond where they are now in trying to not cooperate. Although I think that's all going to fall apart. I do think the Supreme Court has no choice but to say that the sanctuary city laws have to fall under the supremacy clause of the Constitution. Otherwise, we don't have a Constitution and we don't have justices. I mean, this is no different. This is no different than when Eisenhower and Kennedy were seeking to put black children into schools that were being affected by the changes after Brown against Board of Education, where they were no longer going to be separate but equal, and federal troops had to be sent down. And George Wallace stood in the doorway, but he didn't get arrested because he stepped aside. I mean, he actually gave in eventually. I'm not defending George Wallace. I'm just saying he had a little more common sense than these idiots have. Right. He understood ultimately, I don't want another civil war. The Civil War decided we are one union. We have substantial states' rights, and we don't grant enough states' rights. But when it's on the other side, it's on the other side. And there are laws where the law of the United States is supreme. And usually it makes sense, right? It's where we're facing outward. Foreign policy. And immigration, we're facing outward. Immigration is a function of foreign policy because we can't let the whole world in here. Otherwise, we'll be destroyed. I mean, Biden tried that and he almost destroyed us. So I hope that LaMonica McIver gets in front there. You're watching right now a federal marshal approaching George Wallace. George Wallace is standing in the way. This I don't know. Oh, Katzenbach. That would have been under Kennedy now. Originally it was Eisenhower who did these.
Proclamation, Governor, was signed by the President within the last hour.
As Governor and Chief Magistrate of the state of Alabama, I deem it to be my solemn obligation and duty to stand before you, representing the rights and sovereignty of this state and its peoples. The unwelcomed, unwanted, unwarranted, and force-induced intrusion upon the campus of the University of Alabama, today of the might of the central government, offers frightful example of the oppression of the rights, privileges, and sovereignty of this state by officers of the federal government. Now, therefore, I, George C. Wallace, as governor of the state of Alabama, have by my action raised issues between the central government and the sovereign state of Alabama, which said issues should be adjudicated in the manner prescribed by the Constitution of the United States, and now being mindful of my duties and responsibilities under the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Alabama, and seeking to preserve and maintain the peace and dignity of this state and the individual freedoms of the citizens thereof, do hereby denounce and forbid this illegal and unwarranted action by the central government.
Governor Wallace, I take it from that statement that you are going to stand in that door and that you are not going to carry out the orders of this court, that you are going to resist us from doing so. Is that correct?
I stand upon the statement.
Stand upon that statement. Governor, I'm not interested in a show. I don't know what the purpose of the show is. I am interested in the orders of these courts being enforced. That is my only responsibility here. I ask you once more, the choice is yours. There is no choice that the United States government has in this but to see that the lawful orders of its court are enforced. Consequences of your stand must rest with you. The choice is yours. I would ask you once again to responsibly step aside. And if you do not, I'm going to assure you the orders of those courts will be enforced. Two students who simply seek an education on this campus are presently on the campus. They have a right to be here, protected by that court order. They have a right to register here. It is a simple problem, scarcely worth this kind of attention in my judgment. And those students who remain on this campus, they will register today. They will go to school tomorrow, and they will go to school at this university, at this summer session. The university indicated its willingness to accept them. From the outset, Governor, all of us have known that the final chapter of this would be the admission of these students. I ask you once again to reconsider the consequences of your statement, and I'll ask you once again, will you give me the assurance you will step aside and peacefully do your duty? Students will remain on the campus.
We are winning in this fight because we are awakening the American people to the dangers that we have spoken about so many times, which is so evident today, the trend toward military dictatorship in this country. We shall now return to Montgomery for the purpose of continuing this fight.
I want to see it. Go in.
This constitutional.
This, then, is the moment when Governor George Wallace of Alabama walked away from the schoolhouse door.
Well, I would just like to say that I'm glad that registration is over and everything is over now. I think we can get down to studying. This is our main purpose.
For is a little bit different than the scene we saw here.
My God.
So there's contrasting two very different
Yeah,
protests.
I mean, Wallace put up a political fight, and then he stepped aside because if he didn't step aside, the United States Marines were going to knock the shit out of him.
Right.
And you can see he wasn't a big guy either.
Right. And say what you will about what obviously we disagree with what his position there, but he stepped aside. Then you compare it to the Democrats of today. And he was a Democrat, by the way. We also have to remind people George Wallace was a Democrat.
Was a Democrat against a Democrat. Yeah, that was.
Here's another Democrat. And today, this is
that
what the
was
Democrat
a Democrat against a Democrat, and he did not engage in violence the way this woman, who should be prosecuted, engaged in violence against the government of the United States, because I don't know, she thinks the state of New Jersey can decide who can come into the United States and who can't. It's like saying, the state of Alabama can decide whether blacks go to school or not.
Right.
In any event, that's what's going on in the Democratic Party. I mean, she's no different. Maybe that isn't even as bad as trying to bring rapists back and killers back, and
right,
like the one up in Maryland, very close to, who wants to bring back
Kilmar.
And a whole bunch of other ones.
What are they going to do if they? What would they do if, for some reason, they got their way and these guys came back? Are they going to welcome them back?
I think the first thing he'd do is proceed to do what he always does and beat the shit out of his wife.
Right, but what about
he
these senators?
hasn't hit her in a couple of months. He must be getting,
what about
anxious to hit her again?
Right.
And imagine all those rapists they have down there that haven't raped in a couple of months. They're crazy. This is what I'm telling you. I want you to think with me, because we'll go over this a few times. What's wrong with them? I wake up in the morning. I hear these people say that stuff like that woman there. I don't understand what's wrong with them. I watched that Van Hoople go down to El Salvador and want to take an animal back here, and they want them all back. And they didn't do a damn thing about the people who were killed, the people who were murdered, the people who were beaten, people who were thrown out of their houses, all their constituents, law-abiding American citizens, born here, naturalized here. That's who their obligations are to, not the rest of the world. Ashley Babbitt's family got $5 million. Good. It should have been $150 million. But in any event, it's now time to prosecute the person who killed her. And it's about time to do a lot of things that aren't getting done. And I'm starting to get impatient. The guy who killed her has been free for a very long time now. It's an excellent case. It's a case that any fair grand jury would bring in a minute. I know it'll be a difficult case to prosecute in the District of Columbia, but it's worth it. You want me to prosecute it? Get me, talk to your crooked District of Columbia Bar Association. Or they'd probably be afraid to have me prosecuted.
Right.
We've gone through the case often enough, and we will again, but the $5 million is blood money, and they should take it and they should use it they should use it for themselves. They deserve it because they've been through hell. But it should have been a lot more than $5 million, by the way. Didn't the District of Columbia assess me before I settled the case $148 million for a defamation that was based on no finding, but the fact that I didn't comply with discovery? Right. You think maybe she was entitled to that?
You would think, at the very least.
Well, the big bill, we don't know. There's the there you see all the cops that could have grabbed her, and on his side of the aisle, the officer had another 4 or 5 of them. And you notice he doesn't shoot at the 2 people that are knocking their way through the door who are armed. He shoots at the unarmed girl. You explain that to me? No, you won't explain it to me because it's first-degree murder. The big, beautiful bill. I do not understand why the Republicans are going crazy on this. For example, they want more Medicare and Medicaid cuts. You know, Medicare, Medicaid cuts have to be done very, very, very carefully. And they have to be done very carefully because there are 2 things that we can say about Medicare and Medicaid. They take care of very, very sick people. They take care of very deserving people. And they take care of people that might die if they don't get that help. And people cheat. And when you make cuts, there has to be principle to it. And for the first time with Doge and with poor Elon Musk, who got him, I shouldn't say poor, I mean very rich Elon Musk, who got tortured because he did it, we finally have figured out ways of distinguishing between the 2. And we've been able to find a lot of fraud in the Medicaid, Medicare, or any one of those programs. And the amounts that have been deducted are amounts that are well within what has already been found. Now, over a period of time, as that continues, which I would suggest Congress fund, they're going to find even more. And we'll be able to make the reductions in a principled way. But why? And I see the principle here, but I also see the politics of it. And, you know, you can't do anything if you're not in power. And we don't want to go back to the Republicans are going to throw the little old lady off Social Security. So that doesn't mean we shouldn't cut Medicare, Medicaid. And maybe if there was no better way to do it, just cut it. But there is a better way to do it that Trump has shown us. Now, whether you agree with that or not as a congressman, as a Republican congressman, shouldn't you give deference to the leader of the party who has finally found a way to do it that is a principled way to do it? You think maybe he can see the bigger picture better than you can? I don't know who's holding it up now. I thought he had made a deal with Chip Roy based on the
Well, they're saying that Republicans are closing in on a deal. After
Chip
the president's
Roy, Ralph
visit.
Norman, who was some of the other? Oh, then my friends from New York who really, I mean, when they're around Trump, they kiss him, and when they're not around Trump in their districts, they say the worst things about him. So, Mr. President, you should know that. You don't exactly have a loyal group of people here. They want the state and local taxes all deducted again.
Right.
Now, the president, I think, has tripled the deduction for that. But they don't get everything. And they shouldn't, because all it does is reward states like New York, California, New Jersey, and it disadvantages states that do a better job of handling their fiscal resources. You cannot argue, I swear to God, you can't argue with the following. Why should Florida subsidize the fact that New York spends more than 2 times what they spend on half the number of people? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to encourage New York? Why should Floridians subsidize? I believe it's something like this. I'm going to be off a little here, just a little bit, just a little bit, not too much. I'm writing it down so you can see it.
As the mayor writes that down,
Here.
reports are that some of the holdouts emerged from the meeting this morning back on board.
Republicans?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe he broke a few arms, I hope. Were they walking out with a cast on their arm? There, I want you to look at that. What is one side says New York's budget this year is $250 billion for, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. No, I did it right. New York's budget is $250 billion for 18 million people. Okay? Okay. And Florida is 120 billion for 22 million people. That's 4 million more people. New York has more than double the budget. New York has more than double the services? I've lived in both. And Florida has better services in all the ones I can measure. I'm going to tell you the difference. New York has a lot more crooked politicians who steal a lot of that money. So, like, for example, when Hochul bought the test for COVID, she spent 600 million. Every place else spent 300 million. But then she ended up getting a $300 million contribution to her campaign, to her PAC. Well, I should have said $300,000 contribution to a PAC. I can show you examples like that all over. Now, why should you allow people that stay in these states to get a deduction so that other people make up the taxes who are living in states that are more frugal or better organized or not as dishonest? And maybe, just maybe, you'll convince these states to lower their taxes and they'll save themselves. So the president has made a movement here. A lot of people think he shouldn't have. Right now, you're limited to 10,000. You can go up to 30,000. That'll take care of a lot of the lower middle class people that get hurt with this. The really poor people don't get hurt with this because they take the standard deduction. So you got to be making enough money so that the standard deduction doesn't help you. And 30,000 gets you pretty well damn into the middle class. So it's the richer people that are getting hurt. Oh, but the Democrats don't want to hear that, and nor do my Republican friends. What I just said to you is too complicated for these people to explain to their constituents, so they're getting beaten up, which is why they're not terribly good members of Congress anyway. Very sad. Very, very sad. Well, let's see what we have to catch you up on. Should we take a short break? And then we'll come back and we'll catch you up on the last minute items. And I do want to go over Comey one more time.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with the final segment of America's Mayor Live. Here we are in a little bit of soccer time, but here are the things that I don't think you're going to hear elsewhere. You remember the bomber at the IVF clinic in California? he has announced now that he's put out they put out some of his papers that he has a war against pro-lifers. I bet you're not going to see that anywhere else, right? Guy Edward Barkus, 25 of 29 Palms, California, uploaded the foul-mouthed rant in which he tried to justify detonating a car bomb outside the American Reproductive Center on Saturday. He took specific aim at IVF, calling it extremely wrong. Barkus was blown to bits, and 4 people were injured in the blast. He announced that he has a war against pro-life, and he's angry that he exists. Basically, I'm anti-life. I don't see anything political in it, but I just didn't want you to think that, it was something other than it wasn't, because they left that impression. You should know that Europe is moving very, very determinedly to the right. The center-right parties in Portugal have, like in Germany, won a plurality, if not a majority, of the vote. The right-center party won the most seats, and the right party, further right, won the second most seats. And this is the first time that's ever happened. It shook up the traditional balance of power in a trend witnessed elsewhere in Europe. For 50 years, the Social Democrats and the center-left Socialist Party have alternated in power. But on Sunday, Chega, which is the far-right party, gained the same number of votes as the Socialists, which creates a right-wing coalition for Portugal. This is very similar to what happened in Germany, but Fred Merz from I Love Lucy has double-crossed the right-wing party and has gone with the socialist communists, and he's getting ruined in Germany, which, by the way, has 800 people either under arrest or in prison for saying nasty things online. And he's accusing the right-wing party of being Nazis without any substance, and he's acting like one. So here we got, unfortunately, a center-right who's really not, kind of like one of our rhinos, right? The EU and the UK have reached a trade agreement, which is nice to see. But it's nice to see that the UK reached a trade agreement with us first, and maybe that will assist. Maybe that'll assist in getting us an agreement with the EU, which poses almost as many problems as China, which it shouldn't, but it does. The team that I used to love, the New York Knicks, and I still do because I'm really looks like it's got a chance. And Mr. Galen Brunson from the same college as the Pope. Wow. That's like a Walt Frazier. It's like a Walt Frazier effort in the game where Willis Reed had to come in injured, and Frazier, who wasn't a scorer, scored 41 points to win the championship for the Knicks. I don't know. It's getting New York, I'm sure, very excited. I'm not there, but it'll get them very excited. I mean, they do love the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks have been very, very bad to them for a long time. They've been just not such a good team. And the Rangers also have been up and down. I mean, neither team has. Well, the Rangers haven't won a championship since I was mayor, and that had been a deluge of 54 years. And then they won one, and they haven't won one since then. And the Knicks haven't won a championship. We were in the finals one year. We were in the finals twice, I think, when I was mayor. We lost it both times. Largely, I thought, because we never got Ewing, the backup that he needed. Always thought that Charles Barkley and Ewing together would have won 3 or 4 championships. But that's me, Ted.
No, that's good. Yeah.
We'll have to see. The team they beat, the Celtics, was, by all accounts, the second best team in basketball.
Right.
Now, the best team in basketball still lies ahead, but we'll have to see what happens.
Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland and Oklahoma, but Oklahoma has shown weakness lately. So let's go back to where we began when we were on the Rudy Giuliani show, to the two most important stories of the day. The first one is the Biden story about prostate cancer. Our sincere sympathies to him and his family for undergoing a monstrous disease, prostate cancer, if it isn't controlled. And I know what it's like when it isn't controlled. Not that I had it, my father did. I had prostate cancer, but early, and I had it 25 years ago. Right, 25 years ago. And due to the efforts of Dr. Stock and my great friend who hates when I mention him. So I'm not sure I'm going to mention him. Maria, why don't you come and mention him so he doesn't get mad at me? Well, in any event, I'll think about it for a second. What are the odds that Joe Biden and his family covered up the fact that he had prostate cancer for some time? Would you say nobody bet on that? Huh? What do you think? Would anybody bet on it? Are they taking odds on it? I mean, if he didn't cover this up, it'd be the only thing he didn't cover up.
Right. The betting odds have to be in our favor.
Nobody's going to take the bet.
Right.
Look at that jackass. Look at that. What's wrong with her? What's wrong with the first?
Such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Oh, you answered every question, Joe. Look, he still has the thing in his ear to give him the answers. She wanted to be First Lady bad, huh? Only way she get on Vogue magazine with that puss. Right?
Oh, I mean, that's yeah, she really wanted to stay in office. She wasn't happy when they were told to leave.
Here's just some simple facts about prostate cancer, right? He has just about almost as advanced as it can get. The highest Gleason score is 10. He has a 9. The category is a 5. It doesn't get higher than 5. It has spread. They do say that they think it is susceptible to hormone treatment, but they don't know that until they do it. Here's the real issue. Prostate cancer develops over almost a lifetime. I mean, it develops. It probably. They are working on. They are working on even better tests than the PSA test, and they have some that'll take it back earlier. And there is clearly a genetic disposition to it. My father had prostate cancer. I had a 50% greater chance of getting it. I did get it. My son has a 50% greater chance of getting it than other kids because of me, which means starting, they say at 40, but my doctor says you really should start at 35. You should start getting a PSA test because the PSA test sets a standard for you. We can have different PSAs. The singular score isn't going to tell us anything. What's going to tell us something is when it goes up. Let's say my usual PSA is very, very low. It's a 1. And let's say yours is a 5. It could be occasioned by the fact you have more testosterone. Now, if you stay at 5, but I go from 1 to 3, I better get checked. Because what's happening is more of this, I've forgotten the name of the chemical, is being excreted from my prostate than normal. In fact, nothing should be excreting from my prostate. And when it does, it can happen usually for one of two reasons. The cells are multiplying because of cancer, or you have an infection. And it's about 50-50, which is why people don't like PSA tests, because they say it over-presents, meaning you're going to get a PSA that's up, you're going to go, and it could turn out you had an infection. And, but I kind of like it's working that way, then it misses it. In other words, you're being overly, also, there's a way to prevent a biopsy if you do it. And the way to prevent the biopsy is to, I'll tell you what happened in my case. I went, my PSA test was up. I've forgotten how much, not borderline. Enough so you'd be worried, but not enough so you're sure it's cancer. So the doctor put me on antibiotics for a week, 10 days. Then we did it again, and the PSA test was the same. And then he said, it's still not for sure, but probably yes. And then I went and had a test, and I had prostate cancer, and I was treated for it back in 2000, really from May of 2000 until the end of 2000. And I was definitely clear of it by sometime in 2001. And then I kept getting PSA tests after that. And my PSA has been at 0 or 1 or whatever. It's been the same. Every once in a while, it takes a little bump, and we go look at it, and it's some difference in the testosterone, or because the testosterone comes back into your body afterwards. And it's when the testosterone comes back that you find out, are things normal? He has to have had warning of this. There is no doubt about it. He just didn't end up having basically deadly prostate cancer that develops very slowly like that. When he went for his last physical, it was in his body. When he went for the one before it, it was in his body. When he went for the one before, it was in his body. When he went for the one before it, and before it, and before it, and before it. Now, they didn't take PSA tests? They didn't do digital rectal exams? This one they felt from a digital rectal exam, which means it's bad prostate cancer. In many cases, when you hear about a man getting prostate cancer and he gets cured, and it almost seems like we've cured it now, the digital rectal exam shows nothing. It didn't in my case. It was just a PSA test because it wasn't that advanced, thank God. If I waited 10 years, who knows? I'd be dead. So they covered this up just like they covered up everything else. And what I did on the earlier show was I referred you to my book, which should be called Giuliani Tells the Truth and Here's the Proof. That should be the name of the book. That's what I believe, right? Because I've told the truth about 15 different things where they've accused me, taken my money, tried to destroy me, tried to make me bankrupt. Right now, we're trying to put me in prison in Georgia and Arizona. I'm telling the truth about all of it. You just don't, if you tell the truth, come on, when are they going to give up? I tell the truth. You got the wrong guy, jerks. So, did they cover up his dementia? And how long were they covering it up? Well, in my book, on page 143, 144, and you really should get this because you can just check it off when all these things come out that I brought out 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I'm going to take you back to January of 2019, not quite 5.5 years earlier. This is about his mental condition. This was months before Joe announced his candidacy on April 25th. On his much maligned laptop, Hunter Biden had the following text exchanges with Dr. Keith Abloh, a frequent doctor on Fox, by the way, a controversial psychiatrist who was his doctor at the time. They're talking about a podcast, and Hunter offered his father as the first guest on the podcast. Abloh, does he recall details, though, with the dementia and all? Hunter, not much these days, but since it's all fake news anyway, I don't see the problem. Abloh, is he a go for sure running? Hunter, according to inside sources, which I can neither confirm nor deny, he's in it to win it. This is 2019 when Abloh and his son confirmed that he has dementia. Now, who knows how long he had it before that? By the book. In another, by the book, exactly, Dr. Maria. In another exchange, they returned to the topic of Joe's candidacy, with the psychiatrist offering a quotable quote. Abloh, any man who can triumph over dementia is a giant. Think what he could do for our nation's needed recovery. Dr. Keith Abloh, look what he did to our recovery. He got millions of people killed. Hunter said, you're such an asshole, but that made me laugh out loud. They're laughing about his dementia. And then he says he wants to be Surgeon General, Abloh. Or you can go to my podcast in 2020.
Episode 62.
Episode 62, says Dr. Maria. Episode 62. And there I have two distinguished doctors tell you straight out about 4 months before he wasn't elected, or he was elected, whatever you prefer, that he has dementia. And this is about the time he was saying that he liked the little girls touching the hair on his legs, which should have gotten us used to the fact that maybe the family's a little perverted. And also that he saw Franklin Roosevelt reading the comics on television when Franklin Roosevelt was dead, before there was television, and never did read the comics on television or radio. It was Theodore LaGuardia who did it on radio. But I could go on and on and on. The man had dementia before he walked into the White House. They covered it up every day he was in the White House. They covered up his having prostate cancer. And we're probably going to find out they covered up a lot more. Would you like to know who owned the cocaine that was in the White House? Secret Service covered that up. Right? Yes. Absolutely. 100%. 100% correct. Absolutely. The second thing that we should take a look at is James Cardinal Comey. And here's what I want you to focus on with James Cardinal Comey. He's guilty as hell. He looked at those numbers, right? I'm going to put those numbers up. This isn't the first time he was exposed to this. As the enterprising reporters on Newsmax, I think it was Finnerty who did this, pointed out in both the Salerno case and the Gotti case, that expression 86 was used on tape for killing people. 6'em, 86'em, whatever. So it's not the first time he saw that. Maybe he didn't remember it. But when he offers his explanation, he says, I posted a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assume were a political message. He offers no explanation of what political message he thought it was. nor do the sycophants who interview him ask, nor has anyone asked, what's the political message, James Cardinal Comey? If it's not off him or get rid of him, what is it? What's the political message? Want to keep that secret? Maybe because he can't come up with an answer to that.
Political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with
Who's
my
this
wife.
reporter?
So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
Should she be
Take
fired?
me back to the walk on the beach.
I'm not asking that.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, why would someone put an address in the sand? And I said, I don't know. And we stood over it, and I said, I think it's some kind of like political message. And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
She never asked what the political message is. Because she's willing to accept any asinine explanation that dirty liar will give. Remember, this is the guy who fixed the Hillary Clinton case. This is the guy who continued the Russian collusion investigation twice after it was cleared by the FBI. This is the guy that framed General Flynn. This is the guy who lied 4 times to the FISA court under oath, saying that the affidavit or the Steele dossier was verified, and it wasn't. This is the guy who said you couldn't verify the Steele affidavit, although I have pointed out 5 different things you could do to verify it that he didn't do. What else does he have to do? What, do he go to shoot somebody in the head? Man should have been in jail, and it might have prevented a lot of the crap that happened, because it might have scared a few people, because that's what it's supposed to do. Criminal law exists for 2 purposes: justice, deterrence. Deterrence, to stop others from doing it. Well, the 2 lovers got away with it. His number 2 person got away with it. The whole FBI. And and then they're still investigating the 2 assassination attempts of the president. They haven't gotten anywhere, the FBI. You expect them to? I don't. I don't expect anything out of them. And I'm getting impatient now. Well, we'll be back with you tomorrow with the Rudy Giuliani show on Nondale TV. And we'll be back at X, and we'll be back here on X tomorrow at 8. And, if you haven't watched it yet, I suggest you take a look on where can they see the inauguration of the Pope?
X, and we're in the process of having a shorter version.
Yeah.
We'll have
For
some short,
subscribers.
but we can't post all 3 hours on there at once.
We're gonna hope to do that. But
you can watch it all
X.
on X. Yeah,
You can watch the whole thing.
that was fun.
Through it, pick out the ones you like. It really is beautiful,
Right.
inspiring. It'll help you spiritually. So, God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense. written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given